Now students, standard 9, subject social science, and you just see that here I have written revision session 1. So first of all, we'll discuss about the chapters. So chapter number 1, chapter 2, chapter 13 and chapter 14 and chapter number 15. These 5 chapter is the full syllabus of our unit test 1. So today in revision session 1, we'll discuss about the chapter number 1 and chapter number 2. Now chapter number 1 will start rise of British rule in India. Now you know that students, we have already done this chapter and it's a revision session, so we just take a glance on it. Now you just see that in chapter 1, you know that when we start the chapter number 1, rise of British rule, they have given the title rise of British rule. Why? Because the Britishers came to India for the trade purpose. They are not came to India to the ruling purpose. But slowly and steadily, due to their economical power or you can say educational power, they become the ruler of India. In ancient time, the India's position, you can say that it's an incomparable. That is why India was known as a golden bird, Sone ki Chidiya. But slowly and steadily, that you can say prestige of our country is a decline, and we become the you can say one kind of servants of the Britishers. So how it will be happen? Why India is known as the golden bird? So that kind of questions will be solved in this session. First of all, Indian commodities, for example, silk, cotton cloth, muslin, or so many things. For example, we can say indigo also, spices also. These all things were you can say exported to the other countries. For example, Europe. And Europeans are habitual of our using of our commodities. But for example, it's a Europe and it's India. So when Europeans are habitual to use the commodities of India and they are coming to India by the land routes and sea routes, but in between there would be a you can say Istanbul. There is a name Istanbul Constantinople, and they are coming through that route to India, either land route or sea route. But in 1453, it may be asked for exam objective portions in your exam. In 1453 AD, there is a, you can say a clashes or you can say battle between the you can say the Turkish Muslims, and that is why the land route and sea routes of Europeans through the India was closed. So here the you can say first topic of our chapters were begin discovery of sea route to India, because this route was closed for the Europeans to reach India. So now they want to reach India by the sea routes, and that is why it's our first topic, that is begin that discovery of sea route to India, that we will discuss. Now discovery of sea route to India. Now as you know that Europeans are habitual to use our commodities, and they are not you can say able to live without our commodities, you can say spices, muslins, clothes, etc. So the discovery began to find the sea route to India. So first of all, the Prince Henry, if you remember the name, it may be asked for objective. Portuguese King Prince Henry give the economic assistance. Portuguese King Prince Henry give the economic assistance to find the sea route to India, and so many explorers or you can say great people or brave people try to find out the sea route to India. Among them, first one is Bartholomew Dias. Please remember the name that I will write on the board, because it may be asked for the objective portion also. Bartholomew Dias start to find the sea route to India, but when he started his journey, so there was a surf storms in the ocean. So he went back to Europe. But he found the Cape of Good Hope. Cape of Good Hope. Now, it may be asked who discovered the Cape of Good Hope. The answer is Bartholomew Diaz. After that, the Spanish king, the economic assistants, and the other sailors start to their journey. And in that, Christopher Columbus, if you remember the third sailor or you can say explorer, Christopher Columbus, start to find the sea to India. But unfortunately, he was landed on one island. It's called you can say West Indies, or you can say one Caribbean islands. But up to throughout his life, he thought that that he found the sea route to India. But this mistake was, you can say, removed by the Amerigo Vespucci, because he has declared that he has found the American, that is, he gave the name according to his name. So here we know that Christopher Columbus also find the sea route to India, but unfortunately is not able to find. And finally, Vasco da Gama find the sea route to India in 1498. Here, student, you must have to remember the name as well as the year also. In 1498 AD, Vasco da Gama find the sea route to India, and he reached to the Calicut port in the western coast of India. At that time, King Zamorin, this name also we must have to remember, that King Zamorin ruling over India, and he gave the permission to trade the European people into India, and now the door is open for the European to having the trade relations with India. So now our second topic is that arrivals of the Britishers, or you can say other foreigners, into our country. So this is now second topic that we will discuss. Now next one is that arrivals of the Britishers, or you can say Europeans, to India. Now when the Europeans came to India, after getting the success of the Europeans or Portuguese of 100 years in India, then after you can say a Dutch from Holland and Danish from Denmark also came to India. Then after the Queen Elizabeth, or you can say give the permission for the trade purpose to East India Company into India. In which century? 1600 century, or you can say 16th century. Understood? And the first ship with the leadership, or you can say lead by the Captain William Hawkins, reached to India. But due to their rigid policies and you can say oppositions of Portuguese, they didn't get the permission to having the trade relation with India. But afterwards, they get the permission from the last Mughal king Jahangir, and Jahangir gave the permission to the British, and the first ship arrived in the Surat in 1608. And finally, the Britishers also came to India for the trade purpose. And Mumbai, just see that Mumbai became their headquarters in 1687. And slowly and steadily they also established their, you can say, areas to rule, or you can say for the trading purpose. Now, the French East India Company also arrived in India in 1664. Now, the Portuguese, the French, Dutch, Danish, Britishers, it means so many foreign tribes came to India for the trade purpose. Now there will be a clashes between French East India Company and British East India Company. Now during the clashes between these two companies, the Dutch and Danish leave India forever. Now French and Britishers will be having their limited portions to having the trade boundaries. They will be having the trade boundaries. So due to this, in India, you know that so many tribes was having their trade relations, or they will be having that particular area. Now our next questions for 3 marks, we can say that Battle of Plassey. It may ask for 3 marks. So students, we must have to write 7 or 8 points for this. Now, Battle of Plassey. Siraj-ud-Dowlah was ruling in Bengal. Siraj-ud-Dowlah was ruling in the Bengal. And at that time, you know that Bengal was the last province, or you can say state. Now, even you can say Britishers also having that trade center in Bengal. Now due to give that security purpose, or you can say protection purpose, they made the fortress around that trading centers, and this thing is disliked by the Sirajud-Dowla. So what the Sirajud-Dowla has done in that, Sirajud-Dowla destroyed this entire fortress. Okay, entire fortress was destroyed by the Sirajud-Dowla. Now this news reached to the Chennai. In Chennai, the Robert Clive is there, the Britishers. Now the Robert Clive came with a small army to the Bengal, but when he saw that the Sirajud-Dowla's army is too huge and he is not able to defeat the Sirajud-Dowla, so he made a one treachery. Treachery means you can say planning how to defeat the Sirajud-Dowla. And in this treachery, we can say the commander-in-chief of Sirajud-Dowla's army, Mir Jafar, and Seth Hamilton coaxed to join. It means they were now sided with the Britishers. So when the battle was declared, it means before the battle, these Mir Jafar and Sheikh Hamilton, or you can say other peoples of the courts of this Sirajud-Dowla, were unnecessarily harassing the people. And finally, the battle was declared. And you know that the Battle of Plassey was fought on 23rd of June 1757. So now this battle was declared, and in the village, and that name of that village is Plassey. It is located 38 kilometers away from the Murshidabad, West Bengal. That is why it is known as the Battle of Plassey. Now here what happened, according to plan, the Battle of Plassey was just ended in half a day, because the Sheikh Hamilton and Mir Jafar, commander-in-chief, both are already joined the side of the Britishers. So they were, you can say, lost the battle. Sirajud-Dowla lost the battle, and according to plan, the Mir Jafar was become the Nawab of Bengal. So here we have completed 3 marks questions. I have written only some of the key words that you must have to remember. First of all, Sirajud-Dowla, he was ruling over the Bengal. Mir Jafar, commander-in-chief, on which day the Battle of Plassey was fought. Even the Robert Clive also you must have to remember. They also came with a small army. So here we have discussed about that the Battle of Plassey, which is, or you can say, for 3 marks. Now next one is that Battle of Buxar. Now Battle of Buxar, it is after the Battle of Plassey, and it is believed that after the Battle of Plassey, the foundation of the Britishers is strong into our country. Now Battle of Buxar. Now Britishers made the Mir Jafar as the Nawab of Bengal, and they want to extract more wealth from our country. But the Mir Jafar was not allowed them to get a more due to their greedy natures of the Britishers. So they think that Mir Jafar was dethroned from the post of the Nawab, and they made the Mir Qasim the next Nawab of Bengal. Here you can remember the name Mir Jafar and Mir Qasim. So when Mir Jafar was dethroned, so one more, or you can say new Nawab of Bengal is Mir Qasim. But Mir Qasim was more ambitious than the Mir Jafar. So the Britishers, unable to get the, you can say, wealth, and they not become economically prosperous from the Bengal. So they try to, or they want to dethrone Mir Qasim also from the post of the Nawab. So they dethrone the Mir Qasim also. Now to take the refuge, or if Mir Qasim wants to take the revenge with the Britishers, so he take the help of the, you can say, Nizam of Awadh as well as the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. They made the one united army, and they won having the battle with the Britishers. So on the 22nd October 1764, the Battle of Buxar was fought. Now they will be having the united army, Mir Qasim, the, you can say, king of Nawab of Awadh, and the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam. They all having the united army, but unfortunately this united army was also defeated against the Britishers. So after the winning of the Battle of Plassey, the Britishers' foundation is too strong. One more victory they will be having, Battle of Buxar. So slowly and steadily, the Britishers are become stronger in our country. And after the Battle of Buxar, one more time they made the Mir Jafar as the Nawab of Bengal. So here we also one more questions we have completed is you can say Battle of Buxar. After that we can say expansion of the company rule. Expansion of the company rule in India. Now here students, you must remember that sequence as well as the name of the different, you can say, governor generals who came to India. First of all, the English government passed one regulating act in 1773 AD. 1773 AD. So you must have to remember the name. English government passed a regulating act, even the year also. According to this act, now the, you can say, general or you can say governor of the particular state became the governor general of that state, and now he will be having the, you can say, power to take the decision regarding, you can say, trade and all the political activities. In short, we can say after become the governor general, they will be having the power to take all the decision in their entire states. And you know that the first governor general is Warren Hastings. Warren Hastings became the first governor general, and when he became the first governor general, he will be having two classes, or you can say two battles. First battle with the Maratha, and the second Mysore battle with the Hyder Ali. Now at that time the company has to be face many problems, because at that time the company had to be face many, you can say, enemies, as well as so many states they have to fight or clash between you can say other tribes also, or you can say Nizam also. So after the Warren Hastings, now the company want to become stronger. So another one is that Cornwallis became the governor general, and he will be having the third Mysore war with the Tipu Sultan. Please remember the name. Third Mysore war with the Tipu Sultan. And as you know that Tipu Sultan is famously known as that Tiger of Mysore. At that time he was known as famously known as the Tiger of Mysore. Now after the Cornwallis, the Tipu Sultan not win against the army of the Britishers. Why? Because you know that the Britishers are making the treachery plan how to defeat the Nawab. They will be taking the help of other people also. For example, to defeat the Tipu Sultan, they Congress, or you can say the Britishers will take the help of Marathas or other armies, and finally the Tipu Sultan cannot able to you can say win against this army, so he accept the system, or you can say policies which is implemented by the Britishers, or you can say treaty. And after Cornwallis, Sir John Shaw became the Governor General of India. Sir John Shaw became the Governor General of India. So the rigid policy, some rigid policy adopted by the Sir John Shaw. What happened in that? The name or prestige of the British East India Company declined. Now the prestige of the British East India Company was declined, so they want to expand their area, and at that time the prestige of the British East India Company declined. So next Governor General Wellesley. Now Wellesley got the, you can say, Wellesley got the power or given the responsibility to expand the British Empire, or you can say prestige of the British East India Company. So the Wellesley adopted some of the, you can say, policies, or you can say he implemented such policies. Through that the company prestige as well as the rule of the Britishers expanded. So it's our next questions of 3 marks, or you can say 2 marks. Terms and conditions of the subsidiary alliance systems. terms and conditions of the subsidiary alliance system, that it may be asked for 2 marks or 3 marks. Now students, our next question is that subsidiary alliance system which is implemented by Wellesley. First of all, it may ask for objective that which system is known as the Sweet-Poisson. So subsidiary alliance system is known as the Sweet-Poisson. So what is the subsidiary alliance system? What are the terms and conditions of the subsidiary alliance system? Because it may ask for 3 marks, so we need to write all these points for the subsidiary alliance system. So here we will not write, but we will discuss that first. Actually, total 5 points is there in subsidiary alliance system. First point is that you can say the state or Nizam who accept this subsidiary alliance system, they will get the one army, a trained army by the British government or the English government. And after the second point, we can say that in return of the getting that army by the Britishers, the state of Nizam has to be give their province as well as the equivalent income to the Britishers. Third one is that we can say third terms and condition of the subsidiary alliance system is that the company or the Nizam cannot wage any war or sign any treaty. It means that the Nizam cannot utilize that army without the permission of the Britishers. That is the third terms and condition of the subsidiary alliance system. Fourth one is that there is the one English representative always will remain present in the state assembly. It means one English representative will be there in the state assembly, and other foreigners are not allowed. Other foreigners in the sense other people. It means you can say only the Britishers are allowed. You can say Portuguese, French, Europeans are not allowed to having the trade in the India. Or you can say these are the harsh policies introduced by the Wellesley. After the Wellesley, there is a one person, we can say William Bentinck. William Bentinck. Now, William Bentinck, known as the Liberal Governor General in India. Why? Because you know that so many decisions are taken by the William Bentinck, and these decisions, why he has to take these liberal decisions? Because when he see the terms, you can say the faces as well as the behavior of the people, they were totally criticized the British government. So he thought that he was liberal in his deeds. So finally, the William Bentinck is known as the Liberal Governor General. After the William Bentinck, Dalhousie came as the Governor General of India. Now there is a 2 marks question. What are the you can say reforms introduced by the Dalhousie? So it may be asked for the 2 marks. So you must certainly remember that which reforms introduced by the Dalhousie in our country. So Dalhousie, first of all, in 1853 he introduced in 1853 the first railway was started in India between Mumbai and Thane. Second thing is that we have started in our country is that wireless system between India and England. Next one is that Public Works Department established during the time of Dalhousie. Apart from this, many changes he has done. For example, child marriages. He banned on the child marriages and advocate the widow remarriages. It means he was banned on the child marriages and start the widow remarriages. That some changes that he has done. So these are the reforms that introduced. Even the English education also you can write. Due to the Dalhousie's entrepreneur, we can say that the English education was imparted in our country. Now after that, we will be having the 3 marks questions that economic impact of the company rule. Now, economic impact of the company rule, it may ask for 3 marks generally. Now here all the detailed information we will not discuss. We just discuss that during that time Bengal was glittering and the state who exported many things to the European market as well as the other countries also. At that time the Bengal export the silk, you can say cotton cloth also, even the spices, sugarcane, so many things, muslin, these all things are given to the other countries. So how the Bengal was, the glittering of the Bengal was declined, how the Bengal was faded away, you can say. So after implemented of Dvimukhi Shasan, or you can say dual power policy, dual power policy, or you can say system, whatever. After the implementation of dual power policy of the Britishers, or you can say Dvimukhi Shasan, the Britishers get the power to collect the revenue, whereas the Nizam, or particular you can say king, will be having a responsibility to take care of the people. It means the Britishers will be having the power without responsibility and the Nizam will be having the responsibility without any power. So after implementation of this dual power policy, the you can say glittering of the Bengal was faded away. Next one is that you can say that during that time our artisans, farmers, peasants became unemployed. So our market is also collapsed. So we can add one more point is that before the arrival of the company, you can say villagers are self-reliant, but after the arrival of the you can say company, they are dependent. So this is the economic impact of the company. Due to that, economically become a poor. Afterwards, that social impact of company rule. In this, we will not discuss too much about a social impact. What is the impact seen in the society? So here we can say that in our country there are some bad habits, or you can say even some of the things which is prevalent, which we can say these are the one kind of black spots for our country. For example, child marriages, doodh piti, sati pratha. So these habits are, you can say, stopped by the Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Durgaram Mehta. Then another one person, they are the stalwarts, we can say. Stalwarts means that brave people. Durgaram Mehta, Behramji Malbari, they are the stalwarts, brave people who pass the act according with the help of the Britishers, and this all the bad habits were closed in our country. So here students, we have completed our entire chapter number 1, Rise of British Rule in India. Now we will move towards the chapter number 2. Now students, we will start our second chapter, First World War and Russian Revolution. As you know that this chapter was divided into two phases, First World War and Russian Revolution. Now, you know that during that time, the European countries want to expand their territories. It means they expand their rules, even though their neighboring countries are also not left by them. So this chapter in initial part, you know that we have discussed about that how the Western Europe colonialisms in Asia and Africa, how they start the ruling in Asia and Africa. So the European countries try to expand their rule and they came to Asia also. So when we write the first point, or you can say first topic discussed by us on that day in the explanation of this chapter, the first one is that colonialisms in Asia. After taking its grip over India, the England is entered into Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Singapore, even China also. But when England will be having the clashes with China, because they will be having the opium trade. You know that opium means afid. Now, due to that, the England defeated China in the Opium War. Now, in Opium War, after defeated by the England, the 5 ports of the China is handed over to England. Even though many parts, or you can say ports of China will be now, you can say, ruled by the other people, even you can say Japan or other countries. So this is the colonialism in Asia, how the European countries came to India. Afterward that, colonialisms in Africa, how they reached to Africa and how they ruled the Africa. So first of all, in the end of the 15th century, the Dutch take over some parts or province of the Africa. Then after, you can say England, France, Germany, etc. established their rule in the north of Africa as well as Central Africa. even the, you can say, the King Leopold of Belgium says the vast province of Congo and he started his rule. Even the Germany and Italy also captured some parts of Africa. Understood? So in short, the Africa was totally ruled by the different countries. So this is the second thing that we have discussed, colonialism in Africa. Now while on the one hand the greedy of European nations were trying to colonize various Asian African territories, on the other hand Germany and Italy had completed the process of its respective political unifications. So now the, you can say, how the First World War started. So it is our first topic, that factors of the First World War. Factors of the First World War. Now student, it may ask for 3 marks or 4 marks, but you must have to remember any one factor can also be asked for 2 marks also. For example, write any one factor of the First World War for 2 marks. So you must have to prepare this entire question so you can get easily the 2 marks questions also. So what are the factors of the First World War? First of all, we can say that First World War was began on the 1st August 1914 when the Germany has defeated the France into the Sealand War. So some of the France province was handed over to Germany, and then Germany had to France had to sign the Frankfurt Treaty. It was the humiliation. That humiliations cannot be, you can say, forgotten by the France, because the France has to pay a lot for that, and that is why the first factor of the, you can say, First World War is economic factor. We can say economic factor. Now you know that in the 19th century, the England tries to expand its area in Asian countries as well as in India also. At that time, the Germany is also try to make their markets in the Asian countries, and the Germany is provided or supplied the cheaper goods in comparison of England and other nations. So due to that, the, you can say, economical reasons, there will be a clashes between Germany and England. So that is why it might be considered as the first factor for the First World War. Now the second factor is about that militarism. You can say militarism, or you can say military, or you can say power only. Now militarism, at the time some of the countries were trying to make the military training compulsory in their countries, and some of them are make that military as their weapons, or you can say compulsory to that country. For example, England, France, Austria and Russia had begun expanding their military power. England, France, Austria and Russia, they expanded their military power. While on the other hand, the Germany, Japan, or you can say Italy had made that compulsory military training in their nations. That is why the militarism is also considered the most important factor for the First World War, because one side they make the military training compulsory, one side they make the expanded their military. So it may be chances that they will be afraid of each other. So now militarism is also considered the important factor for that. Now third one is that groupism. Groupism is also considered for the factors for the First World War. In groupism, the whole world was divided into two groups. Before the First World War or near the First World War, the entire world was divided into two groups. On the one side, we will be having Germany, Austria, Hungary, Bulgaria, and Turkey. On the other side, we will be having the England, France, and Russia. And they will be having the fear, jealousy, hatreds among each other. That is why the whole world is divided into two groups, and it is also considered the important factor for the First World War. Now next one is that fierce nationalism. You know that nationalism, it means that a proud, or you can say duty towards our country. But at that time the Germany, and you can say other European countries, they were having the narrow form in the nationalism in their nations. Narrow form, it means that they were too cruel and to spread their nationalisms. Leading European nations began the teaching extreme destructive nationalism to its people. They taught them that love for own nations and hatred for the other nations. That is why you can say love for own nations and hatred for the other nations. Due to that also we can say fear of nationalism, fierce nationalism. It is also most important factors of the First World War. After that, role of newspaper. Now students, role of newspaper in due to newspaper we get many, you can say, news every day. But at that time they were, you can say, writing or false writes up into the newspaper. So they will be wants that one kind of narrow minded. Due to their narrow mindedness, they creating the venoms into the people. Their writings in the newspaper false about the other countries. So one kind of jealousy was created, hatredness was created against other nations. That is why you can say the role of newspaper is also most important factor for the First World War. And the next one is that philosophy of war. Philosophy of war. At that time, the German writer Nesses and other German writers also, they have written so many things. Tolstoy also published that only the mighty can deserve to live. War is a sacred war. So many things they have written, and due to their writings, you can say one kind of hatredness was created against the other nation. So these all are the factors of the First World War, students. It may ask for 3 marks, or you can say separate important factor. For example, write any one factor for of the Second World War, or sorry, First World War. It may ask for 2 marks. Now our next questions for that write a short note on the First World War. Write a short note on First World War. It may ask for the 2 marks. So here students, you just write the information about the First World War. You can say that at that time the world was divided into 2 groups. One side is Allied nations, and one side we have Axis nations. Now you should just see that Allied nations and Axis nations. Now due to with the 24 nations supported the Allied nations, it means 24 nations are supported to the Allied nations, and only 4 nations with the Axis nations. Now you just see that the difference between them. Understood? But at that time what happened? The Germany want to expand their rule, and in between the Germany can easily draw the you can say the American steamer Lusitania. Understood? In that American 147 soldiers was died. Now ultimately the America joined the First World War, and America joined the Allied nations. So now Allied nations become stronger, and finally the war was declared, and you can say the German writer Kaiser abdicated. It means he was leave his post and run away. So Germany surrendered to the Allied nations, and finally Germany found the responsible for the First World War. Now our next question is that effect of the First World War. Effect of the First World War. It may ask for the 3 marks, or any one effect can be asked for 2 marks. So you must have to be prepare that entire questions. Now you just see students, effect of First World War. Total 5 effects will be there, or sorry 4 effects will be there, I think so. And we must know about this all 4 effects. It may be asked for 3 marks, and separately it may ask for any one effect for 2 marks. So now first effect is that destruction of man and material. Destruction man and material. You know that in First World War, total 6.5 crore people took part in that. Now, in that, out of the 6 crore, 6.5 crore, 1 crore people, approximately 1 crore people was died. 70 lakh was injured, or sorry, 2 crore was injured, and 70 lakh was permanently handicapped. That is why it is considered the effect of the First World War, destruction of man and material. You just see 6.5 crore people took part in the World War. Nearly 1 crore was died, 2 crore was injured, 70 lakh was permanently injured, and the condition of the people become pathetic. So it is the considered as the first effect of the First World War. Now second effect is that social change. Now during that time, all the men were busy in the war, so now the responsibility of the family was on the shoulder to the women. So women carry out, or you can say step out their house, and they take the responsibility of their family members as well as their family. So they take select the different professions as well as occupations also. Now at that time, the women will take the responsibility of their house. So other situation was created, for example, unemployment, starvations, lockouts, strikes, these other problems, poverty is increasing, these all things were discussed in the social change. So it is also considered as the most important effect of the First World War. Now third one is that the Treaty of Versailles. You know that in the Treaty of Versailles there will be 4 points that you must have to be write down. The Treaty of Versailles is that total 4 points, and June 1919, you can say Treaty of Versailles, June 1919. In that, most probably you just write 4 points that we have discussed on that day also. First of all, after the First World War, all the nations have to decide that arrangement about the regional, you can say arrangement, regional in the sense which area is ruled by which country, that needs to be decided. So it's the first effect. Now sorry, you can say first point in the Treaty of Versailles. Second one is that this reductions of troops and disarmament. It means no one will use the armament now onwards. That is also decided. Then third number is the arrangement of distributions of gains and the end of the war fine, etc. and other provisions. So these are the 4 Treaty of Versailles that we have discussed. Even though you must have to write why it is called the Treaty of Versailles, because this agreement was signed in the Mirror Palace at Versailles. That is why it is called the Treaty of Versailles. And the fourth one is that long-term effect. Now it's an important also we can say, because after the First World War, many developed nations, they were not joined the, you can say, or not supported to the League of Nations. For example, Russia was not joined that, even America is also not joined the League of the Nations. So you can say that the seed of the Second World War was already showed into the end of the First World War, because many nations are not joined the League of Nations. They have already decided the treaty. Then afterwards, after the First World War, they were all the nations decided that we don't have to be any more one more war in the world. But the leading nations already not participated. That is why we can say that the long-term effect. Why it is even long-term effect? Because the Second World War carry out. That is why. Afterwards, that another question is that Russian Revolution. In Russian revolutions, you know that it's a 3 marks short note. Russian Revolution. The Tsar was ruling over Russia. The Tsar people are too cruel and pitiless, and they were, you can say, getting their positions inheritedly, and now they will be too cruel against the people. Finally, the Tsar was ruling, and they get the power in the positions also from inherited manner. The Tsars were so cruel and pitiless, no people that anyone demanded for any right, so they will be sending to the one equal to Siberia. Understood? Now, So Tsar was too cruel. So one regime was taken out under the leadership of Father Gapon. You know that, I think so, that point. Understood? I will not write each and every point. We just discuss about that. The entire regime was taken out to the Tsar's residence, Petersburg's Winter Palace, under the leadership of Father Gapon. These all innocent people was unarmed, or some people will be having the captions within their hands, written that long live white lord of Russia. But unfortunately, when they entered into the palace, the Tsar's king gave the command to his army or troops to shoot the people. And in that incident, thousands of people were, you can say, died. And this incident was took place on the 22nd January 1905 Sunday. Even one 2 marks question is also asked, that we already discussed. You know that about that. Why the 22nd January 1905 is considered as a bloody Sunday in Russia? Okay. So it may ask for objective also, which day is known as the bloody Sunday in history. So 22nd January 1905. Okay. So in that, thousands of innocent people were died. So it is, you can say, very bad event took place in the history. Afterward, that on 8th March, the one more time, the workers of the Petrograd, they were called on strikes. So one more time, the Tsar king gave the command to its troops to shoot the people. But now this time, the troops, or you can say army, refused to shoot, and the revolution was begin. And finally, the Lenin group, except Lenin, all were happy because the Tsardium, it means the power of King Tsar, was fall down. I think the Tsar was ruled over Russia more than 300 years, and finally the power of the Tsardium was fall down. Now the power is transferred to the Menshevik group, or you can say Bolshevik. Okay, that's why it is called Russian Revolution. Understood? Now, afterwards, last question of this chapter is aims of the League of Nations. Aim of League of Nations. Now, students, here League of Nations was formed on 10 January 1920. You can say the points, 14 points suggested by American presidents Woodrow Wilson. And finally, after the First World War, the League of Nations was formed due to, you can say, spread the peace throughout the country. So what are the aims of the League of the Nations? Total 6 aims is there. Understood? To maintain the international peace and security throughout the world. It is the first aim. Second aim is about that every nation has to respect the integrity and unity of the other nations. Third one is that to give up the policy of war, even to develop the international relations, to solve the international disputes peacefully through the negotiations, not by the battle or something. And the last one is that if any nations will not follow this League of Nations, so that nations will call as a rebel nations. So here we completed our chapter number 2 entirely. So students, chapter 1 and 2 in this sessions we have completed. Now we will move towards our next sessions, revision session 2.